WWE Hall of Famer Paul Heyman shocked the pro wrestling universe when he shockingly betrayed both Roman Reigns and CM Punk at WrestleMania Saturday and aligned himself with Seth Rollins, but the surprises didn't stop there. At the Raw after WrestleMania, it was revealed that Bron Breakker was also aligned with Heyman, with a new faction being formed on Monday Night Raw. The question now is, could there be more members set to become Paul Heyman guys or girls in the near future? We'll let you know in this countdown video. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. But before we do, as you can see right there, we are at 21,362 subscribers. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join the ever-expanding WNU, that being the Wrestle News universe. In addition to that, you'll be able to see shortly on the sidebar, you can scan the QR code. You can join the WN365 roster to get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. You can also click the link in the video description, and also you can click the join button. Whilst you look at the sidebar, you can see all upcoming post shows and watch alongs that we're going to be doing live here on the channel, including, at the time of recording this video, we're just about to go into May, so that means it's time for WWE Backlash and also AEW Double or Nothing. We'll be live for watch-alongs and post-shows for both. Now, in this countdown video, we're going to be discussing some names that could be set to become Paul Heyman guys or girls and join the new faction you can see right there on Monday Night Raw. As I said in the intro, WrestleMania was, of course, a massive event over 2 nights in April. It was WrestleMania Saturday, followed by WrestleMania Sunday. And the main event of WrestleMania Saturday saw a triple threat match where Seth Rollins defeated Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Now, going into the match, the wise man of Roman Reigns was actually in the corner of his best friend CM Punk. But once the match ended, it was Paul Heyman leaving with Seth Rollins after shockingly turning on both Punk and Reigns in the process. The following night on Raw, when he was explaining his actions on the Raw after WrestleMania, they were interrupted by both Punk and Roman Reigns, but shockingly, Bron Breakker appeared to help take out both Reigns and Punk, revealing himself to be another Paul Heyman guy. This has led to many to speculate, could there be more Paul Heyman guys set to be revealed, and even maybe some Paul Heyman girls too? We're going to get into some names that possibly could be set to align with Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker in this Paul Heyman-led faction. Whether it's a dangerous alliance, whether it's Evolution 2.0 or something else entirely, we're going to get into some names. Let's begin with Austin Theory. Austin Theory is such a unique case, isn't he? Because, of course, he was someone pushed heavily by Vince McMahon. When Vince McMahon was in creative control of WWE, it was very clear to see he was an Austin Theory fan. At the time of Vince McMahon booking WWE, he had Austin Theory in WrestleMania matches against the likes of course, Pat McAfee. And actually on camera, they had this storyline where Vince McMahon was a mentor-like figure to Austin Theory. In addition to that, Austin Theory was United States champion. He won the Money in the Bank briefcase under Vince McMahon. Clearly, he had plans to make Austin Theory into a world champion. Now, ever since really Triple H has taken control of WWE creatively, whether that be in 2022 or maybe more officially in 2024 as well, once Vince McMahon exited TKO Group Holdings, we've seen Austin Theory not be utilized as much under McMahon, as I mentioned. He was an advocate for having Austin Theory face off against John Cena at WrestleMania 39 in a match that Austin Theory actually defeated John Cena. He pinned John Cena at WrestleMania 39 in the opening match of WrestleMania weekend. Certainly, again, a very significant spot for the young Theory. Under Triple H, not so much. He hasn't been winning titles. He hasn't been a featured player, and he's in a tag team with Grayson Waller. Now, many people, when you talk about Austin Theory, they're quite divided. There are some that are saying that he's overhyped. He's not that good. And his in-ring work was a reason why Triple H kind of pulled the plug on his push, because every time he was put into a big opportunity, a big moment, he just never really stood out. There are others that say, no, his in-ring work is fine. He's got the look, he's got the charisma, and he's got the promo ability, and he just needs to be pushed. He's still young, and he can be a big success in WWE. Now, does he need to be in a faction with the likes of Paul Heyman? Does he need to be in a faction with the likes of Seth Rollins and get the rub off of those kind of stars? Certainly, if you've got an issue when it comes to speaking and promos, Paul Heyman, he's your guy. He can cut promos for you all day. When it comes to working with some of the best in-ring talent, well, certainly when it comes to Seth Rollins, he's one of the best in-ring performers of his generation in WWE, in pro wrestling altogether, and certainly being involved in a faction that's got big name stars like that, and also Bron Breakker is kind of being treated as the next big thing in WWE. Certainly that could be beneficial for Austin Theory. He feels like someone that has been on the main roster for a little while now, but is he ready to go to that next step up? And as I said previously, there have been some who have compared this new group to maybe be an Evolution 2.0. Now, it doesn't really fit like for like. People have been trying to make that kind of comparison. Some are saying that the Triple H in this new faction is Seth Rollins. Others have been saying that makes Bron Breakker the Batista-like figure, the muscle. Some are saying that Paul Heyman's Ric Flair. This is where the analogy kind of doesn't really work, because Ric Flair in the mid-2000s was still wrestling full-time. He was a World Tag Team Champion with Batista. He later became the Intercontinental Champion. He was wrestling on a regular. In fact, he actually had a feud with Triple H, with all of these people in Evolution, because he was wrestling all the time. He teamed with Randy Orton and Batista at WrestleMania to face the Rock and Sock Connection. Like, he was always wrestling, so I'm not really sure where that analogy comes from. But yes, he was seen as the manager-like figure for the group, particularly for Triple H World title matches. So just this group, they just need a Randy Orton-like figure. We've got Batista, we've got Triple H, we've got Ric Flair. We need the Randy Orton-like figure, and some are saying that the Randy Orton-like figure would be Austin Theory. So would Theory fit? I guess in theory he would. Whether or not they decide to go down that route, we'll have to wait and see. If not Austin Theory, what about Grayson Waller? Now, I talk about how maybe the group is missing another sort of young star, but it's a brash talker. Yes, obviously we talk about Bron Breakker being in the group, and he's the muscle, even though Bron Breakker does cut a good promo, and he's kind of got that Steiner-esque voice, being a Steiner himself. So some are saying, well, you've got Bron Breakker, he's kind of like the Randy Orton figure, but certainly maybe someone like Grayson Waller actually does fit that very well, because Grayson Waller's strongest suit is his ability to talk. He is a loudmouth. He is such a good promo that whilst he was in NXT and also on the main roster, he had his own talk show, the Grayson Waller Experience. Now, he's not necessarily the youngest pro wrestler. Actually, he's 35 years old. Some people probably think he's a bit younger than that. In pro wrestling terms, that could mean he's still got 15 years left, because you can go on until you're well into your 50s. And do you ever truly retire as a pro wrestler? I don't know. But Grayson Waller was so good on the stick that actually when he debuted on the main roster, he was injured because he'd suffered a broken leg, I believe it was, in NXT. So they debuted him on the main roster just with his talk show. They just had him go out there and cut promos every single week because he could. So maybe that's what they need more of in that group. Yes, you've got obviously the in-ring with Seth Rollins and can cut a promo, even though he's not the most amazing promo, but he can cut a promo. You've got Bron Breakker, who is the muscle. He's explosive. Yes, he can cut promo, but he's not maybe the most amazing promo. And then you've got Grayson Waller, who's largely built his career in WWE off work on the microphone. He can talk, and he can be loud, and he can be brash, and it can get him a lot of attention. With someone like that, obviously he would learn considerably with Paul Heyman, and maybe that's exactly what this group needs, is more people that are more loudmouth, and Heyman kind of, I guess, grooming the next generation to step up into the main event scene in WWE. So there have been teases for the longest time of A-Town Down Under, that being the tag team of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory splitting up. Could we see a situation where whoever does split from whom, and whoever is the heel in that situation, actually splits up the tag team to align themselves with Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins, and Bron Breakker? Let me know your thoughts about that one too. Now, what about Trick Williams? Obviously, what we have seen is Paul Heyman, particularly when it comes to Bron Breakker, really grooming him since his time in NXT, both on-screen and off-screen. Bron Breakker has actually shared segments with Paul Heyman a few times whilst he was on NXT, whilst he was the NXT champion. In addition to that, when he actually debuted on the main roster, there were scenes on SmackDown where you would see Bron Breakker show up, be talking to Triple H, in comes Paul Heyman, and always they had this situation where they were looking at Bron Breakker from afar, and it's almost like Heyman was always looking at him from afar, always waiting for the right time to just pluck him and actually elevate him into a main event level in WWE. And Heyman was working behind the scenes with Bron Breakker too. The same could be said for someone like Trick Williams. Trick Williams could be perfect for this faction. Trick Williams, of course, has been front and center in NXT for the last 18 months, Prior to that, he was more of a sidekick, more of a second-hand man to Carmelo Hayes when Carmelo Hayes was North American champion into becoming NXT champion. Once Hayes got called up to the main roster, they did the split and Trick Williams was elevated to main event level scene. He was super popular, one of the most popular stars on NXT with his entrance and his chant. More recently on NXT, he's kind of switched over to being a heel, which could be perfect to prep him to join a heel faction on the main roster. Now, as of right now, it still feels like Trick Williams is doing stuff in NXT. He's still involved in the NXT Championship picture. Just at the time of recording this video, he made an appearance at the TNA Rebellion pay-per-view, so it looks like he's going to be involved in a feud with Joe Hendry, but maybe that whole feud's going to be to write him off NXT TV. We had heard coming out of WrestleMania 41 weekend there had been discussions about calling up Trick Williams to the main roster. He's currently now 30 years old. In addition to that, his in-ring work has improved significantly. That was one of the reasons why WWE was maybe hesitant to pull the trigger on calling him up to the main roster. He needed a bit more seasoning. He was still a bit too green inside the ropes, particularly when he's compared to someone like Carmelo Hayes. But he does have the personality, he does have the athleticism, he does have the charisma and the wow factor. It was just more of the in-ring work that he kind of had to figure out, which he has, certainly. Still not maybe completely there just yet, but he's got all of the athletic skills. So he could be someone, again, that would be perfect for this group. Someone who's obviously charismatic, got the look, maybe has a little way to go in terms of rounding out the character, maybe has a little bit of way to go in terms of the microphone, maybe has a bit of a way to go in terms of in-ring, but certainly aligning with someone like Heyman for promos, aligning with someone like Seth Rollins for in-ring, and aligning with someone like Bron Breakker, who, as I said, is considered to be the next big thing. And in addition to that, was a absolute stalwart of NXT, certainly NXT 2.0. He was the face of that brand for the longest period of time. It can be seen as a kind of pipeline kind of trajectory for Trick Williams. So he could fit into that faction perfectly if indeed he does get called up to the main roster. Now, what about Brock Lesnar? Of course, when you talk about Paul Heyman, you can't not talk about Brock Lesnar. When you're talking about Paul Heyman guys, obviously the first names that come to mind are the people that, obviously the person that coined the phrase Paul Heyman guy, that being CM Punk. But really the ultimate Paul Heyman guy, particularly in WWE history, is Brock Lesnar. It's the person he's been associated with the most, isn't it? Of course, his client, Paul Heyman, being his advocate. I know that Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman have split up a bunch of times on WWE television, whether it be in the early 2000s in Brock Lesnar's first run, whether it be in his second run during the time that Heyman was, of course, with Roman Reigns. There have been times where Heyman has chosen other people over Brock, but there were also times where Heyman had chosen other people over Punk, and they still had Punk be his best friend in this most recent run on television, because I guess they assume that people forget, or time heals all wounds, maybe. Now, when it comes to Lesnar, his WWE status is very much up in the air. We don't even really know if he's still under contract to WWE. The assumption is that he is, and the assumption is that his contract is frozen right now. We haven't seen Brock Lesnar on WWE television since his match with Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam 2023. The reason why? Well, initially, it's because Brock was off TV for a while. He's a part-time wrestler. He's only got a specific number of dates. The plan was for him to come back at the 2024 Royal Rumble, compete in the men's Rumble match, and then move on to WrestleMania 40 to have a match against Gunther. In between that, he was going to be eliminated by Dominic Mysterio, of all people, have a match against Dirty Dom at Elimination Chamber in Perth. But of course, because of his involvement in the ongoing lawsuit by former WWE employee Janelle Grant against WWE, Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis, Brock Lesnar has been put on ice ever since. Now, initially, he wasn't named explicitly in the lawsuit. He wasn't a defendant or anything like that. He was just referred to as a former WWE and UFC champion. In the amended lawsuit, he was specifically named as being involved. Once again, he's not a defendant, he's not anything like that, he's not a plaintiff, but he has now been named in it. And of course, when it comes to anything involving that lawsuit, WWE and TKO, for that matter, WWE's parent company, is keen to keep their distance and keep away from all of it. Whether that's Vince McMahon, whether that's Brock Lesnar, whether that's John Laurinaitis, whether it's any reference of it at all, they don't want that to happen. So you can imagine WWE's reluctance of, if it does go to trial, if this one does go to trial, it does see a courtroom and there are depositions or what have you, the questions about why is this person still on television, why is this person still getting paid, why is this person being featured prominently on WWE television when they're in the middle of a lawsuit, it's not a good look. Now, certainly you get the impression that if this lawsuit were to go away, or if it were to close or be dismissed or go to arbitration, then Lesnar could possibly return depending on that outcome at any point. But the longer it goes on, the longer that Brock Lesnar is going to be scrubbed from WWE, as we saw when they released a video game that they couldn't technically remove him from because it was too late in the process, so they had him in there but not as a playable character. WWE is looking to distance themselves as much as they can from him. for right now, but the assumption is that he's still under contract. So whilst this one is unlikely, I guess what you can't rule out is the possibility of the lawsuit going away. And if it does go away, they could go back to Brock, and Brock could fit in perfectly to this storyline where you've got someone that is, I guess, like a powerhouse person for Bron Breakker to look up to, and eventually you do Bron Breakker versus Brock Lesnar. Eventually you do Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins once again. There's lots of different directions that they could go in for that, but again, it depends on everything that happens regarding that lawsuit. And finally, we spoke about all of these Paul Heyman guys there. What about Paul Heyman girl? What about Becky Lynch? Becky Lynch, of course, is back on WWE television, making her return for the first time in many months at WrestleMania 41. Of course, last year in 2024, her contract with WWE had expired. She said she was taking some time away to spend time with her family, with her daughter, and also pursue some interests outside of WWE. But the connection is there because Becky Lynch is married to Seth Rollins, and it's not like they haven't acknowledged that on WWE television before. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, prior to being married, but actually being together as a couple, they were paired up on television. They defended both the Universal and Raw Women's Championship at the same time against Baron Corbin and against Lacey Evans back in 2019, just after Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins had won their respective titles. Their marriage has been referenced multiple times on WWE TV, and critically, whilst Becky Lynch did return as a babyface when she returned to WWE television at WrestleMania 41, she won the Women's Tag Team Championships alongside Lara Valkyria on WrestleMania Sunday. But the very next night on Raw, what happened? They lost the Tag Team Championships back to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and with the frustration there, the man turned on Lara Valkyria, turning heel in the process. Being a heel, just returning to WWE TV, her husband is in a brand new faction, we've got a heel faction. It kind of just makes the most sense that she would join up with Seth Rollins and become, on television anyway, the first Paul Heyman girl. Not necessarily in pro wrestling history, because you can make an argument that Medusa / Alundra Blaze, first ever Paul Heyman girl, but certainly when it comes to WWE, she could be considered on camera, on screen, the first Paul Heyman girl, and it would maybe have a rationale for why Paul Heyman did decide to turn on CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Many people saying, why would you turn on a revenue stream like Roman Reigns? Why would you turn on a friend like CM Punk? Well, the opportunity to manage someone like Seth Rollins is, I guess, attractive. But the idea of being the advocate, the agent of WWE's biggest power couple in Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, in addition to Bron Breakker, in addition to maybe one more name, that would be a very attractive proposition for Paul Heyman, and a much more lucrative one when you consider Becky Lynch's foray into Hollywood as well, in addition to being one of the biggest female stars on the WWE roster too. So it would make a lot of sense in theory. Whether or not that happens, I guess we'll have to wait and see. So there you go, guys. There are 5 names there that could be set to become new faction members alongside Paul Heyman, alongside Seth Rollins, alongside Bron Breakker in this new heel faction over on Monday Night Raw. Let me know your thoughts about them in the comment section below. Which ones are likely? Which ones are unlikely? Let me know your opinions, your hot takes. Have I missed any out? Let me know in the comment section below all of your thoughts. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. As you can see right there, we're at 21,362 subscribers. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join the ever-expanding WNU, that being the Wrestling News Universe. We're on our way to 25k. That's the new target this year. Previously, it was 20,000. We've already smashed that target. We smashed it in April. Now, we're going to 25,000. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. See how quickly we can get to 25k. In addition to that, you can join the WN365 roster. Links in the video description. You can also scan the QR code when it appears on the sidebar. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.